Hello there, welcome back to Beauty Bee, where today we are doing a chatting about new makeup releases. The positive kind this time, because I have built up my little arsenal of 10 beauty products that have actually interested me, that have come across Trendmood in the last, I think it's 5 or 6 weeks. That usually is about how long it ends up taking. I try not to do these videos super often. First, because there isn't that much makeup that actually interests me, but also second, because I just don't think it's positive that there's enough makeup coming out that you can fill, an hour-long video every single week just talking about new releases. So we're gonna go through 10 different releases. I have sort of ordered them in a way that makes sense to me. The one at the end is not like the most exciting or anything, it's just things happen to fall into categories. We'll talk about them, what I like about them, and if I would buy them. And I think the answer is yes, if I had unlimited resources, budget, etc., but mostly we're just appreciating from afar. So I think that is far more introduction than was really needed. Let's get into it, starting with the Les Jardins palette from Musée Beauty. I think that this is beautiful. I love the color story. I like how it is springtime and verges a little bit on pastel without fully committing to that pastel look. There are definitely pastel shades in here. There's lavender and basil are absolutely pastels. And then, you could make a case for a couple of the other ones, but there's still some brightness. There's not really depth in this palette, but it is dark enough to give the kind of looks that I like. I don't necessarily use, a blackened purple as often as I would use a mid-tone purple, especially if I'm pairing it with quite light shimmers. I find mid-tones give me enough definition and enough contrast. It has Monet's painting, The Artist's Garden at Gemini, in on the packaging. It's beautiful. That was actually a painting. I mean, clearly we didn't have the real one because A, that's in the Musée d'Orsay, and B, it is more expensive than my entire life and my family's entire lives combined, I'm sure. But we had a copy of that in our living room when I was growing up, so it has a little bit of nostalgia to it as well. It's very pretty. A somewhat similar color scheme actually is the Lizzie McGuire palette from Colourpop. I mean, certainly this is a much warmer take on some similar colors. You've got the greens, the pinks, and the purples, while as where the Musée Beauty one was much cooler toned, but I think this is really cute. I was never a huge Lizzie McGuire fan. I mean, I was definitely the right age, so I was very aware of it. But I mean, I watched it once in a while. I was never a massive fan, really, of any of the live action shows at that time on like Disney Channel or Nickelodeon. But this is really cute, and I do think that while it doesn't nail like early 2000s makeup or mid 2000s makeup, it seems like it really does do a good job of hitting like the aesthetic of the late elementary, middle school age girls in that time period. I mean, I cannot tell you how excited I would have been circa age 11 to paint my room that bottom left shade of green. I, I definitely had friends whose bedrooms were painted that color. And same with the purples and the pink. I feel like everything that was really marketed at girls my age around that time did have those colors. And that's probably why they showed up in the shows like, and that's probably why they showed up in shows like Lizzie McGuire. So I think it's really cute. And I'm not going to pick it up. I do think that Colourpop has a lot of similar color stories, and with the Disney tax that they add on to these collaborations, they always end up being a little more expensive. I would much rather just go for one of their existing palettes. I think Wild Nothing is somewhat similar. I think Garden Variety is probably the most similar though. And I'll just pick those over this, though it is very cute. I also like that they have the little cartoon Lizzie on it. That's adorable. Okay, next up we have the Mary Jane palette from Melt. Now I'm, again, not wild about the theme. I wish that Melt would give it a break and maybe find a different theme for a few palettes. Maybe your spring release doesn't always need to be just about pot, but whatever. This is a really pretty palette. I think it is an interesting take on a smoky palette in that it goes a little into these sort of olive khaki tones. It's interesting. I like how it is a sort of warm tone palette, but still very smoky. That's not to say that it's super crazy warm toned, but if you compare this to, say, Naked Smoky or honestly any smoky palette that's been released somewhat recently, this is much warmer. Everything in here is sort of it's a little bit of a warm taupe palette, and I think that's really interesting. These are the types of colors. These are definitely colors that I like. These are colors that I could see myself getting a lot of use out of. I don't know that there's actually enough difference in my eyes between some of the shades to justify including both of them. For example, there's Santa Maria and Bamba, which, at least in the pan, look nearly identical. I mean, as swatches and stuff come out, maybe some clear differences between them will emerge, but I only have the promotional images right now. And also, while I really do like this, I think that it is probably shades that I already have in my collection to some extent. And I actually think I'm gonna do a inspired by my wish list on this palette because it's really pretty, and if it was less expensive and less drug themed, I might actually consider it. I think that 4 out of 10 is actually the fewest eyeshadow palettes that have ever been in one of these videos. I'm not interested enough to actually go back and check, but that at least seems right in my head. Next up, we have the new 9pan palettes from Sigma. These are their little travel palettes. The on-the-go collections, what they're calling them. They're all very everyday wearable. I think you could get a look that you could wear to work out of any of these palettes. Probably a few different looks that you could wear to work out of any of these palettes, and I like the variety they have. There's one that's quite purple, there's an orange-based one, there's a red-pink one, there's one that has some blues and greens called Ivy, which I think, were I to buy any of these, which I'm not, is the one that I would be most interested in. I think this was a great release. I'm not sure why I'm not hearing more about it on social media, but that's the way it is sometimes, eh? I will gladly admit the next 2 releases are a little bit silly, but I think that this Tarte Shape Tape eye cream is really funny, mostly because it looks exactly like the gatekeeper droid from Jabba's palace in episode 6. That's it. That's the only reason it's on this list. It just makes me smile every time I see it. This next release I thought so hard about getting for so long, and I've decided against it because I do not need 6 lip balms. But this is the Sephora Favorite set, Give Me Some Lip Balm. The bag is pretty. I was really drawn in by the fact that you get a full-size Pat McGrath lip balm, but I feel like the value just isn't there for me. I have no need for 6 lip balms. Goodness knows that my little stash of lip balms has greatly increased recently, but no, we don't need 6. And we're moving on to Melt for a second time. These are the cream blush lights. I like cream blush. I like the colors that these come in. I do think that the range is a little bit different than what most brands come out with. I feel like usually when you see a blush range, they tend to center around pink, and then you'll have, maybe 1 or 2 peaches, 1 or 2 oranges, maybe some more nude colored blushes. But this They went hard on orange and red. There's really only one shade that I would call a true pink. There's quite a bright coral, and then there's 5 peachy or orangey ones, as well as just a straight up red orange. It's an interesting set of blushes, and I haven't seen anyone use these yet, which isn't that surprising. I haven't been watching a lot of review-based beauty channels recently, but these are really pretty. They're interesting. I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised by the price on these. They're $22. I just assumed when I first saw them that they would be closer to 30, maybe even up to 35. Melt just seems to be a little bit pricier than a $22 blush. Maybe a little pricier than maybe they should be based on what I have heard about some of the quality, but that is a topic for another day. But these are really pretty. I like them, and I like that they went with some more interesting colors than just a range of pinks. Though it would be nice to see something cool toned. There's nothing that even approaches cool toned in this collection. We were just talking about cream blush, so let's move now to serum and liquid blush with these next two items, which are from different brands, but they're very much the same idea. These are from Makeup Revolution, or, whichever of their little sub-brands they decided to label these under. The Super Dewy liquid blushes, and then from Colourpop, the Cheek Dew serum blushes. Now, I think that the packaging on the Makeup Revolution one looks a little bit better. The shade range is a little bit more limited though, which is a shame. I also have not heard fantastic things about the Colourpop ones. Apparently they were not a hit. I think that in the quite long term, I'm talking like next 3 years, not the next even 2 months, I would probably like to try one of these liquid blushes. It seems like an interesting way to apply. I feel like it may actually give a different effect because you do have that extra liquid. I feel like that might be very luminous. I can't say that I could see myself using them for summer, but I'm thinking, especially in the winter, it might be nice to apply something liquid rather than a powder or even a little bit of a thicker cream to my skin. And then finally, you can cancel me, it's fine, but these Jaclyn Cosmetics highlighters and then the blush bronzer duos, I think these look really pretty. I really like that cool toned, very fair blush and bronzer duo. I like how the blush is pink, almost leaning purple. I think that that is a very flattering tone on my skin tone, and it's something that I would probably get a lot of use out of if I had. I think she came out with a really nice range of highlighters as well as the blushes. I think that the blush bronzers could have gone a little bit darker, but overall, not bad. I haven't heard anything about these, which I think is probably a good sign that Jaclyn Hill may have actually managed to come out with a product that didn't have any major flaws. Have you guys tried these? What did you think of them? Actually, just in general, have you tried any of these products? Have you been interested in these last few weeks? And I think that I'm going to get cut off by my camera in about 30 seconds. So let's just wrap this up by saying thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and I hope you consider liking and subscribing if you did. I am looking forward to next time. See ya!